heard the dog screaming, and then I run.
He starts screaming. There's a guy, and he's cutting the dog's balls with a scissor.
The dog lay on the floor and looks like dead.
The blood was... I've never seen so much blood.
In Greece, animal abuse was recently promoted to felony after being considered a misdemeanor for years. The trigger for this change that was celebrated in the animal welfare world and beyond was one particular case. But first, a brief introduction. Animal abuse is unfortunately not uncommon here. In fact, it is an everyday thing, and impunity was and still is one of the things that in a way legitimize the abuse. On the one hand, there is a huge number of excellent rescuers here that have devoted their lives to rescuing, spaying, rehoming, educating and raising awareness. And most of all, there is a large audience, aka voters, that keeps rising, of animal lovers that have been demanding justice for years. And every day, with every new abuse case that goes unpunished, things get more and more heated. On the other hand, there is a society where animal abuse is embedded in every single part of it, with even authority figures continuing the cycle of abuse. In 2014, the mayor of Santorini ran over and killed a stray dog while driving drunk. In 2017, a priest shot and killed 2 dogs in front of a bunch of kids. In 2019, a school teacher, in a raging Facebook post against stray dogs, asked for a recipe for cooked dog. And a retired police officer was caught having tied a dog to the back of his car and dragging him on the road. And in 2020, a retired district attorney would have been brought to justice for abusing his dog, holding him locked up in a public park in horrible conditions, if he didn't have connections in the justice system. And yet, none of the thousands of animal abuse cases that are reported every year managed to get the lawmakers to listen. When Paloma, a 2-month-old puppy rescued by charity in northern Greece, had her leg and ear mutilated and was force-fed acid, it seemed that justice would live up to its name, but no. Paloma was later adopted by a Greek celebrity who swore to make people listen, but despite his efforts, the lawmakers remained silent. And they would continue to remain silent until over a year later. In October 2020, a German volunteer of the Souda shelter project in Chania, Crete, witnessed a crime that would manage to overturn years of indifference on behalf of the authorities to the plight of animal abuse here.
On this Monday afternoon, beginning of October, I heard a dog screaming. My alarm bells going on, and I am listening again where the dog is screaming, and then I run, and behind the fence there was a big dog with a rope on his neck, and I saw a man who, with a tool, who will castrate his dog.
You heard right. The owner had hung the dog from a fence and was cutting off his testicles with a pair of scissors. Reinho called Elizabeth, the one who runs the Souda shelter project, where he volunteers at. The charity has been rescuing and rehoming animals successfully in the area for years, and it is based on volunteer work and donations alone.
So he calls me and he starts screaming. There's a guy and he's cutting the dog's balls with a scissor, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what he was telling me. And he kept repeating himself. There's a guy cutting a dog's balls with scissors. And I told him, hang up, I'll meet you at the vet. Reinhardt had told him, if we don't go to the vet right now, I call the police.
The owner of the dog, realizing that he had been caught in the act, agreed to take the dog to the vet together with a witness and then disappeared for the next 48 hours to avoid arrest.
We met at the vet, and when I got out of the car and our eyes met, he broke down. He started crying. He was in such shock. And then I saw why he was in such shock. The blood was... I've never seen so much blood.
The dog was stabilized and operated on successfully. The police was called, the crime was reported, and an arrest warrant was issued, but no arrest was made as the abuser had vanished. The dog, now named Reinho after his rescuer, made a full recovery, and in no time the case went viral in Greece. Apart from the obvious crime, Reinho appeared to have cigarette burn marks on his head, evidence of ongoing abuse. According to the abuser's wife, the morning of the incident, the dog was trying to play with his owner, preventing him from doing some housework, which infuriated him, and so he decided to punish the dog. This incited even more rage, with protests organized outside his house and demands that the police investigates the well-being of the children living in that household as well. I don't know what it was about this specific torture that triggered outrage and a storm of reactions, not only among animal lovers, but for the first time among politicians, with the Minister of Environment issuing a statement acknowledging that such behaviors are not acceptable in a modern society, and demanding an exemplary sentence for the perpetrator.
On how Greeks look at animals. This made it a lot of very prestigious people, athletes, politicians, movie stars came out and expressed their anger as to what happened to this dog. And all of a sudden, it made the common public come out too. I think it kind of slightly, but substantially shifted the axis a little bit here in Greece as far as animal welfare is concerned.
And things did seem to change for a while. They changed in paper, at least. But after the story blew off, Reinho was forgotten, and 6 months later, he still hasn't been adopted.
He's a puppy. He's about 2 years. He's still 2 years old. Very energetic, very wild. I have an 8-year-old pit bull, and she puts him in check, but from the minute he wakes up in the morning, he's just full of energy. He's a happy puppy. Turn this around. There he is.
Oh, hello.
Say hi, Reinho. And now he thinks we're playing now. Yeah. Obviously, it's important that he gets into the right home. We can't just give him to anybody. He needs somebody who's either strong, that can walk him on a regular basis, and that's pretty much what he needs. He needs somebody who can walk him, who can handle him, or has a backyard where he can just run around and just live like a dog.
The charity's insistence on finding the right home for the dog, and not just any home, tells a lot about the dedication of the people who rescued him. And that should be acknowledged, but Greece being Greece, the opposite is true. In fact, the charity that rescued the viral dog, who even made laws change, and the volunteers who run it, are being punished instead of praised, prosecuted instead of supported, and accused as traffickers and abusers, even by the municipal vet of the area. And their shelter, that has been home to abused dogs like Reinho, is in the process of being shut down. Whenever there are talks about animal welfare, education is a word that keeps being repeated over and over. Education needs to go hand in hand with the law. There is no point of educating on animal welfare without not only writing strict laws about it, but also applying these laws. But the problem is that when priests shoot dogs, mayors run them over, police officers drag them in the back of their cars, and state vets accuse the rescuers of trafficking, the talk about animal welfare education and laws becomes very complicated. Because who will educate us? And what will they teach us? Who will enforce the laws? Until a new generation of politicians, police officers, lawmakers, and voters comes along. A generation that, if we do our jobs well today on educating them, they'll be well equipped and knowledgeable to actually make a difference tomorrow. We'll just have to wait.
We have to definitely fight back.
Jeez, you're such an optimist.
I am because I have kids and I have no other choice but to be an optimist, because these kids are going to grow up and they have to be in this world. So if I become a pessimist and I stop fighting, I'm giving them a world that sucks already. So why not try and change it right now before they're responsible for the shit that we've created?